Excellent. All right, well, so welcome everyone to another Blackstone Technology Foundation meetup event. My name is Greg Greenlee. I am the founder of the Blackstone Technology Organization. This is using analytics to drive business, and this is in collaboration with Insight. We'll hear a little bit more about who Insight is and what Insight does a little bit later. Our panelists today, or tonight, or this evening, wherever you're at, Christina Hines, she is the AI Center of Excellence lead for Insight. Sarah Perry, she's our business development manager at Insight. Elise Holmes is our senior technical recruiter. And we do have Greg Steinmetz on the line. His picture is not here. He's not going to be speaking, but he is in attendance. Okay, next slide, please. So a little bit about Blackstone Technology and the Blackstone Technology Foundation. Blackstone Technology was founded in 2008 and formally established in 2012. We have our 501c3, which is the Blackstone Technology Foundation. BIT itself is more media and jobs board driven. The Blackstone Technology Foundation is more membership driven. So anything around training, speaking engagements, career coaching, mentorships. So we have a number of partnerships with organizations such as the Linux Foundation, Udacity, A Cloud Guru, Amazon, and others. We have a database of over 11,000 plus members. And then we are located in 34 chapters now in 5 countries. So we have actually 5 international chapters in Toronto, Kenya, Ibadan, and Lagos, Nigeria, and London. So next, also we've put on 2 conferences, BitCon 2018 and 2019. We hopefully will be returning with a conference this year, BitCon 2021. More on that in the future, so just keep checking our website. The Blackstone Technology Foundation is free to join, so it's free for people who want to join and become members. You can sign up at foundation.blackstonetechnology.net for that. So next slide, please. So my hopes for this event, this meetup, next slide, is to, so my hopes for this meetup is that we learn more about Insight. I work for Insight. I'm an employee at Insight. I'm a principal cloud engineer for Insight. So we're going to let Sarah tell us about who we are, the mission and purpose, how we work. And then we're going to dive into some of the technologies and the solutions that we offer. And that's going to be led by Christina. She's going to talk to us about digital transformation, data science and machine learning, and some case studies and some field stories around that. And then we're going to end it with Elise Holmes. She's going to talk more about culture and values and career opportunities at Insight. And I just want to touch on a little bit kind of how Insight got involved with Blackstone Technology. So I joined Insight about 2 years ago in 2018, going into 2019, and immediately informed Insight about Blackstone Technology. They became a sponsor of BitCon in 2019, and given the current social climate and the awareness around social and racial inequality and inequity, they reached out to me and wanted to know how they could get involved more from that standpoint to try to bring more diversity and inclusion into or talented members or talented people into Insight, and they wanted some help around that. So we decided to get together and partner up and do some incredible things such as this meetup, and hopefully some things in the future as well. So that's how that partnership and that collaboration started. And so I'm going to allow Sarah the opportunity to talk more about Insight, who we are, and how we work. So I'll pass this off to Sarah.
Thank you, Greg. So, like Greg said, my name is Sarah Perry, and I am a business development manager here at Insight on our digital innovation sales team. Today, I want to give you a high-level overview of Insight and what it means to be part of our digital innovation team. So, oftentimes, with my friend group, I'm considered the Tommy of our group, right? My friends have no idea what I do for a living. They don't know what Insight does. So if they actually show some sort of interest, I'll give them a quick and easy response. Like, I work for a software consulting company, okay? That's usually enough to warrant like a head nod, or rarely do they ask any kind of follow-up questions, but we don't need to discuss it any further. But when I'm in a social gathering, especially professional event, whether it's a conference or I meet other people who work in IT, I go a little bit deeper with my explanation. I still start with I work for Insight, but if the person's not familiar with Insight, I let them know, we're a global hardware and software provider, and I'm on the digital innovation team where we focus on custom solutions for industries. So, for example, IoT for manufacturing, or healthcare and patient systems, or mobile apps for retail companies. We have a broad scope, and it boils down to custom solutions that fit our clients' needs. Now, hopefully, especially if I'm meeting somebody that also works in IT, I'm getting a more conversational response from them than I'm getting from my friends who maybe just don't care where I work. But anyway, so that's a recap of what we do. But I also want to talk to you about why we do it. What inspires us daily? Why do we why do we wake up in the morning and come to work? Advance the slide, please. Um, one more. Our purpose statement: we exist to inspire our teammates, clients, and partners to do things that seem impossible. That's a pretty bold statement, especially when you include impossible, right? That makes it seem like totally, completely out of reach. It takes a lot of confidence to put that out there. But the reality is, the solutions that we build wouldn't be possible just if it was just us on our own. We need our partners and we need our clients to be successful. And that feeds into Insight's mission statement. So, advance. We build meaningful connections to help businesses run smarter. These meaningful connections are a culmination of Insight's capabilities and our partner technology and our clients' business drivers. So we're able to transform these organizations with the custom software we build for them. And that's what motivates us to come into work every day and engage with our clients. So when I talk about Insight's capabilities within digital innovation, I want to tell you exactly what we bring to the table. So within digital innovation, we have multiple areas that we focus on that allows us to do the impossible. Our strategy and design team, they start by looking at user experience. What is it that we're building that impacts people's lives? And then we have teams focused on layering in cutting edge technology. So whether it be IoT smart edge, or intelligent application, or cloud enablement, or data and AI, they spend a lot of time researching and trying to be ahead of the curve on all of these areas. And then we have our transformation services team that helps our clients with adopting these solutions. And they bring to the table methodologies around agile and DevOps and change management that not only helps the client learn to build, but also how to operate the solutions that we're providing to them. So these are capabilities that exist within digital innovation, but depending on the engagement, sometimes we need to leverage the broader Insight team in order to be successful. Advance the slide. Thank you. So if we look at these different pillars across Insight, we've spoken about digital innovation, but sometimes we might need to leverage our cloud and data center transformation team if we need to host a secure data center, or if we have IoT devices that need to be configured in our lab before they go out to the field. That would be our connected workforce team. And then we have our supply chain optimization team for providing hardware and software. Depending on that specific engagement, it can take the entire organization to build these successful solutions so we can achieve the impossible. So for me personally, to know that every day I'm helping to impact our clients and partners as industries change and businesses transform, and as we respond to the status of the world like we saw in 2020, I mean, to me, it's satisfying. It's exciting. So I want to tell you a little bit about me and my journey here at Insight. Um, I've been working in the IT industry for almost 20 years. And at every chance I get, I like to make it known, make sure people understand that you don't have to be white and male in order to be successful in IT. I consider myself an example of that, but maybe I'm wrong. But there are lots of opportunities for the rest of us as well. So I consider myself a project professional. So I have passion for all things related to projects. I'm a certified project manager. I have experience with process improvement, proven success as a business analyst, and I'm a certified change management professional as well. So outside of coding and development, I like to believe that I can do anything. But when I landed at Insight, because of the varied experience that I had, I was able to straddle being a project manager as well as a business analyst. And that ended up being appealing to clients. And I had never consulted before, so I didn't know what to expect. And I didn't think that my talents were unique or special or anything like that. But when I landed at my first client, which was Luxottica, um, they wouldn't let me go. And I ended up being there for 5 years. Um, After that engagement, I landed at Kroger and I was there for 2.5 years. And now I'm a business development manager just as part of our sales organization. I When I was actually at client sites, what I really enjoyed was the variety. I worked on a bunch of different projects from standing up a customer data warehouse to a foreign supplier verification system to commercialization of Kroger apps, which is the project that Greg and I worked on when he first started at Insight. So each project to me is like a new Rubik's Cube or a new problem to solve. And so I feel like it's a new job every single time I'm on a new assignment. So I like it a lot. But outside of the outside of the client assignments, the culture at Insight is also a big draw. I didn't know too much about it before I actually started, but it became more apparent to me as I worked at client sites where there were other consulting companies, and we could just kind of tell that we had it good. We have it good here at Insight. But more specifically, I have been part of the Digital Innovation, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee for 3 years now. I was part of the team that actually stood it up and have still been involved in it, where across offices we have representation where we try to drive more diversity and inclusiveness. And it has been satisfying over these years to notice a major change and a major shift in some of the behaviors and even conversations that we're having. I'm finding that conversations around diversity are more frequent and they're less awkward. So I don't feel like it's stuff that people are shying away from now. I think it's becoming just a norm, and I think that's really important when we have conversations around those topics. We've also have teammate resource groups that have been created as well that have been successful from what I see at least. We have Women with Insight. We have Unidos with Insight. Insight stands out. The Afro professionals and allies at Insight, and then we're in the process of standing up an Asian and Pacific American / Canadian TRG as well as a veterans TRG. So I'm very active in our Afro professionals and allies at Insight TRG and have really forged personal relationships within that group. But they've been a wonderful support system professionally. I'm able to reach out to people that are in different areas across the company where maybe I just know a little bit about that area, but maybe they might have some impact on something I'm working on. And, now I know this person because we were in this API meeting together and I can reach out to them with any questions that I might have. And also, I've just become friends with a lot of the people within API as well. But um, especially over this year where we've all been remote, it kind of doesn't make a difference that we don't work out of the same office because everybody's on video conferencing anyway. So um, for me, when I came to Insight, I was taking a chance on consulting. I'd never consulted before. And I guess I had kind of convinced myself that it was just temporary. And that was 8 years ago. So obviously, it wasn't as temporary as I thought it was going to be. And I really enjoy working here. And I enjoy the people, I enjoy the array of opportunities. I, I don't know. I just like it. I'm happy to talk with anybody one on one if you have questions or if you want some additional detail. no problem. I'm not sure if we're sharing our information, but I have no problem. It's sarah.perry@insight.com. Feel free to email me and we can set up some time to talk. So I'll hand it over to Christina.
Thank you, Sarah. This was actually my first consulting job too, FYI, just to throw that out there. I was also pretty nervous, but it's turned out really well. And I'm going to talk a bit about that today. So hi, my name is Christina and I'm a data scientist at Insight. Thanks everybody for joining. I'm going to talk a bit about what it's like working in data, specifically at Insight, and actually more specifically in AI and data science. And I'm going to talk about that through the lens of a few of projects that we've worked on, just to give you some more concrete examples of the type of work we do. If you want to go to the next slide, please. So touching on something that Sarah mentioned, I always tell people the cool thing about working in consulting is that you get to see data science from a lot of different angles. We work with clients across all the major industries. We deliver on a variety of different types of capabilities, everything from machine learning to vision to optimization. I've got some things listed there, but it's certainly not everything. Lots of different types of use cases. Predictive maintenance was mentioned, healthcare. I'm going to talk through some of those, and we work in all the latest and greatest tech. So it's a really, really great opportunity for anybody that wants to be constantly learning and be challenged. Because we need these skills to do what we do, Insight is really very supportive of training and certifications and willing to invest a lot in us in our professional skill development in ways I really haven't seen anywhere else. I've been very impressed by that. So if it's something, for people that want to learn and really be doing something new and different a lot, it's a great, great opportunity. And for people that don't want to be doing that, it's probably not the best opportunity, but it really does give you a chance to see really just the breadth of the different ways that data science can be used to help people and organizations across all different types of industries and use cases. So if you want to go to the next slide, I'll talk through a few of those specific use cases. I'm not watching the chat. Do feel free to ask questions if you have them, but if somebody can just let me know if something comes up, and I'm happy to talk on that. So this first one that I'm going to talk through was in retail using computer vision, which is essentially taking pictures and making decisions based on what you see, utilizing machine learning techniques. And it was developed on the edge in a mobile application. This was for a major tire manufacturer that wanted to move into a more subscription-based business where they could offer their customers a safer experience by giving them predictive maintenance information on their tires. The first use case that we worked on with them was around allowing their customers to take a picture of their tire and get feedback on whether the tire needed to be replaced based on the wear on their treads. We accomplished this using infrared capabilities, essentially taking a picture and then measuring the distance between the camera lens and each groove in the tire to figure out whether the tire tread depth was good and if there was even wear or whether there was so much wear that the tire should be replaced. And this particular application, like I said, was written on the edge. We've since followed that up with a secondary project related to reading sensor data off of tires in real time and providing alerts to fleet vehicles while they're on the road so that if there is a problem, they can be alerted and take whatever steps they need to make sure that they're safe. So that is an ongoing project, that second one I just talked about. And I think there's a lot more opportunity there. That's just one example. We'll move to another one that's a very different example of the type of work that we've been doing. So if you want to go to the next slide, Elise. Thank you. So this one's in the insurance industry. And in this case, what we were doing is helping to automate a process in which they pull data off of forms and store it to use for other things. This was a very manual process for them, many forms coming in, and they were having people read and process that data so that they could store it and utilize it. So we were able to develop something in Microsoft Azure in this case, making use of Databricks and Azure Cognitive Services to send images to an API that uses OCR, which is optical character recognition. If you're not familiar with that, it essentially will take any image and pull the text off, but it doesn't give you any details, key value pairs, anything like that. So on top of that, we developed some complex business rules in Databricks using Python or PySpark more specifically to then classify that text and be able to store it in a structured format for them to use. And they saw tremendous amount of efficiency improvements by implementing that automated process. And Databricks is a great tool, and we'll talk about it again. It is one of the primary tools that we see a lot of. So we can go to the last slide in our mini stories, and if you will, that one is on healthcare. So this is actually an active project for us. And it's really focused on optimizing patient outcomes and validating whether or not machine learning would be a good approach for this. And this really includes everything from the types of procedures that might be the most effective for someone to different medications or lifestyle changes that, that make the most sense. And this is really to help inform physicians, obviously not to replace them, but to use the massive amounts of data that they have available on patients to make better decisions or just to be more informed about the decisions that they're making. This one is in Python, also on Google Cloud Platform. It's one we're really excited about, and we're really interested to see where it goes. And it is early on, but really, really cool project to help impact people's lives. And so that's, you know, they're all cool. This one I think has a special place in all of our hearts. So if you want to go to the next one, I'm going to go much deeper into a specific customer story here. And this one uses Databricks again. This is a pretty familiar tech stack for us. And this one is in the financial industry. And not just Databricks, also Data Factory, Data Lake Gen 2, a lot of the other resources that are available in Azure from both a data and a machine learning perspective. One of the cool things about this one is that we did have both an AI and a data work stream. It was a really big project, and we also had a business analyst and a project manager. So there was a big team of us for a while working to really develop an end-to-end solution for this customer in the financial industry. You can go to the next one, please. So only 13% of data science projects actually make it into production. We share this statistic a lot with clients. It is from 2017, so I always kind of hope that it's improved since then, and I'm sure it probably has, but that is still a pretty stark reality for a lot of companies. And it's one of the reasons that this particular client came to us as they moved to become more data-driven organization. They didn't want to be a part of that statistic. So if you go on to the next one. This one started when the organization brought in a new CEO who had a vision to make their company more data-driven. He brought on a senior data science manager, and they started hiring data scientists. And they decided that they really needed to invest in the infrastructure and tools for them to be successful. They did not want to be in that 87% that doesn't ever make it into production, because that's really where you're going to have value. So they brought us in to build out a cloud infrastructure for them, work with them to define a specific use case that we could use to pilot that new infrastructure, ingest the data, and then train, test, and deploy a model. One of the cool things is that we really did get to work through the whole end-to-end lifecycle with them almost. And you can see that lifecycle if you're not familiar with it on the right-hand side. You'll see that it's a circle and not a straight line. There is a lot of experimentation and iteration that goes into machine learning, but everything except for the model monitoring and the business integration, we were engaged in with them. And I'll talk through each component of that over the next several slides. So if you want to go to the next one, I can get into the details. So the first thing is business understanding. You know, they weren't exactly sure what use case they wanted to go for when we started this project. So we worked with them to talk about, you know, what are the things that you're really worried about? I like to ask, like, what keeps you up at night if we have a hard time getting to a good use case? It seems like a silly question, but it can be one. You know, really, what are those decisions that really you feel impact your business, that you think data could help you understand better? And one of the things that they mentioned was that, you know, attrition rates, and for a specific product line, they were worried about attrition. So we developed this as our use case and just identified the opportunities of seeing who is at risk of leaving, what are those drivers that impact attrition, because they really didn't know that. And then eventually to quantify that loss and prescribe strategies to reduce attrition rates, although we didn't get to those last two. I know they were going to move forward with those after we left and set up that framework for them. But I'll talk through those. It really was about just understanding what made their members want to stay and what made them want to leave. So if we can move on to the next one here. The next thing we did was explore the data. We needed to know what data did they have to support this question. And in doing that, we were able to provide them with a number of insights. So I'm going to kind of focus on the insights, but I'll talk a little bit about, what we had to go through from a data perspective. There were all kinds of security concerns, everything from, this is a financial institution, right? There's private information from a credit perspective, from an identification perspective, PII and PCI. We had to be thinking through how to handle that as we work through this problem. So we worked with them on that, ingesting the data into the cloud, and then really exploring it to see, what is out there. They didn't even really understand what was industry and what were their attrition rates today. So we were able to provide them information on that, both what are their existing rates, how did that compare to industry, and was there a significance between how long someone had been with the institution and whether or not they were likely to leave. We found out that yes, indeed, there was a pretty big relationship there, which was interesting for them to understand. If you want to move on to the next one. Again, understanding not just who was going to leave, but why they left was really important to them. So I'll talk a little bit later about how we selected the algorithm that we were going to use from a machine learning perspective, specifically because of that. But at a high level, the things that we were able to help them understand, what are the key drivers for attrition within their organization, and do those drivers change based on the relationship, which again ended up being true. So we ended up developing two separate models, one for younger relationships and one for more established customers, to really understand what those different drivers were and why they would have attrition at those different times. If you want to go ahead and move to the next one. So in this one, I really just want to cover, when we're working in machine learning, these are some of the considerations that we have to think about when we decide on an algorithm to use. What are the goals? Obviously, classification versus a regression problem. Classification being what this one was, essentially, are people going to leave, yes or no? And then regression being more along the lines of how many people might leave next year. So it's more a numeric question. What data do we have that's going to go into that model? What's the environment that we're working in? And what kind of performance do we need, both from a compute perspective and from a evaluation criteria perspective? And then lastly, explainability. That's the big one that they were interested in, understanding not just whether someone was going to leave, but what are those predictors. Explainability is also really big for us, both in terms of GDPR. You have a right to understand what data was used to make decisions about you, and also from a bias perspective, understanding what is going into making predictions that might have an impact on whether or not someone gets a loan or is accepted into, whatever the case may be. Like those decisions, people need to know what is being decided and how it's being decided, and explainability is a big part of that. So we did choose random forest as our classifier because it is a model that really helps you not just to know what is going to happen, but why do we think that's what's going to happen. So we can go on to the next one. Thank you. So the other thing when we're working through a machine learning problem is to really understand, what matters to you in terms of what we want to measure. Two of the big things from a classification perspective, and again, that's just whether or not someone falls into one category or another, are recall and precision. And what those really do is help us identify, in this case, how many people do we correctly identify as at risk of leaving? And then precision being how good are we at only identifying those people who are truly at risk. So a better example might be, I like to talk about cats and dogs because that's a little easier for people to wrap their heads around sometimes, and easier for me to talk about. If we have 10 cats and 10 dogs and we're looking at recall and we're trying to say who are our cats, we only want to, we might want to make sure that we find every cat. And it's okay if we say there are 12 cats as long, it's okay if there are a couple of dogs in the mix, as long as we don't miss any cats, or we can minimize the number of cats that we miss. Precision, on the other hand, says, I only want to know if it's a cat and I don't want to have any leakage in there. So it's okay with me if we only identify 8. I want to make sure that we don't get any dogs into that bucket. And there are different reasons why you might choose one versus the other. And then the F1 score is basically the balance in between those, because obviously they are a trade-off. And the reason I'm talking about this in the context of this project is just that, they can get fairly deep technically. We don't always get into all the levels of detail with clients, but this is one in particular that we almost always, if we're doing a classification problem, have to walk through. We need to understand it. We need to be able to help our clients understand it so that they can make the decision or help us on that journey to understand, is recall more important or precision? In this case, we ended up with F1 score because different parts of their business had different concerns. Some of them really didn't want to overpredict the risk of leaving because they wanted to do reach outs, and they didn't want to scare members that hadn't been planning to leave by making them think maybe there was something wrong. Why are they reaching out to me to ask me if I'm going to leave? But then we had others that wanted to be more aggressive and just do more mailer campaigns, things that were a little bit more generic, where it would be fine for someone to get it even if they had no plans of leaving. So we used F1 in this case. Really deep explanation of all that. Sorry, we can move on to the next one. I'm happy to, if anybody has specific interest in machine learning or that type of stuff, talk about that to the end of time, as you can see. But lastly, we did deploy this model, and we did that utilizing MLflow, Azure Machine Learning, and that was the tool for MLOps for us. Essentially, we had to walk them through this process. What does MLOps really look like, and how do you do it within your environment? So these are the steps here, and I won't go through all of them, but the bottom line was we were able to help them. These tools, MLflow is a really great tool for experimentation. It provides a registry so that you can track models and versions of those models. And then Azure Machine Learning on top of that helped to provide the mechanism to deploy that model to an API. And so we walked them through all of these stages. We developed something, we deployed it, and we helped them with best practices for how to use these tools in order to successfully implement the solution, not just this one solution, but how to do that long-term. And this is something, MLOps, that's really big for us right now. We're seeing more and more of this as more and more companies are using machine learning. They want to know how to do this part right, because this part is the part that gets you out of that 87% and really enables you to be successful with machine learning. So we can go ahead and move to, I think, my last slide. And this is just kind of a wrap up, just to reiterate, being a data scientist at Insight really means being able to answer interesting questions, solve cool problems, work with smart and innovative people. Sarah touched on that a lot, but we really do have a great group of people. They're very bright. They love to share. It's very non-judgmental. I might know data science, someone else knows DevOps, but we do those things together, and we learn from each other, and there isn't judgment when you need help. People are helpful. They're great. It's a really great environment, and that really hasn't changed since we've gone virtual. It's been very supportive. I mentioned it earlier, but it is true. It's probably the biggest thing. If you want to continue to learn and develop and see data science across all these different technology stacks, this is the place to do it. And staying up to date on technology, not just today's technology, but tomorrow's technology, looking at what's coming next and being a part of that, and being in an environment where that type of development is not just supported, but encouraged. Insight is really, really, really encouraging of that. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Elise. And again, I'm happy to answer questions now or at the end if anyone has.
Great. Thanks, Christina.
Elise, real quick before you get started, there was a question around project management that came up. And I don't know if this is going to be a question for you or for Sarah, but the question is, as a project manager with limited experience, how can I grow my career in artificial intelligence? This says with Insight to become a data scientist, AI project manager. So just throwing that out there just so it's not missed in case either one of you want to field that. So
sure, I can touch on it just a little bit, and then I would love for Sarah to expand on it a lot more because I'm sure she's going to have some great insight there. From our perspective, we have project managers working on our projects that maybe have never managed an AI project before. And there's great opportunities for learning. Again, you know, we are very collaborative and non-judgmental, and we learn from our project managers all the time about the best ways to deal with clients and scope creep. So there's tons of opportunities. You don't need to have special experience in AI to be a project manager on an AI project. That's just my input. And then Sarah, I'd like to hand it over to you for some more on that.
Sure. So a project manager can manage any project. So my experience has been just like you talked about, you know, it can be a vast array of different types of projects. It doesn't mean that I know the technology. I do not claim to be a technologist. I do not claim to be, you know the end all be all, but what I do know is how to build connections with those team members so I can ask them the pertinent questions that I need in order to manage the project. So really my suggestion to you would be to partner with somebody on the technology side, whether it's, you know, a lead architect or one of the senior developers or something along those lines, and pick their brain. Don't ever be afraid to ask questions. I preface it a lot, you know, listen, guys, I don't know this, but I need you to help me understand what does XYZ mean, you know? So don't be afraid to ask questions and you know, lean on your team. You're never expected to do it alone.
And real quick before we let Elise speak, and because I never really uh, got to tell everyone kind of my experience with Insight, and I just want to tack on what Sarah was saying about, and Sarah and Christina was saying about the environment and the culture. So I started at Insight as a DevOps engineer. I never touched Azure. So a lot of the technology that we worked with involving IoT Edge, IoT Hub, I had never touched. And so during my year and a half, 2 years on this specific project, I was able to build a lot of automation using tools like Terraform, using Azure DevOps, CI/CD pipelines, IoT Edge, IoT Hub, Service Bus, a lot of stuff that I never touched before. And the team, my teammates, my colleagues, were just so willing to help out and help bolster my knowledge where I had gaps. I never ever felt like I never felt as if I couldn't ask a question, whether it was, a complex question or it was a dumb question or, simple question. They always made me feel like, any question can be asked, and never made me feel like I could not come to them with questions, and they always gave me advice on how to grow, not only within the team, but within Insight as well. So I just wanted to drop that in there.
Wonderful. I love that. I think it's a great intro into this section on careers. So again, my name is Elise Holmes. I'm a senior technical recruiter with our digital innovation team. And I just wanted to spend a little bit of time here at the end talking a bit about careers and our culture at Insight. And so I think it was really a nice segue to hear a bit more about our teammates' experience, Christina, Greg, and Sarah, why they came to Insight, what they love about being here. And I think you can hear just the passion and excitement when they talk about the projects and the work that we're doing. And so I think that's a very big draw for a lot of our teammates, is being able to come here and do what you love. You're working on cutting edge solutions and technologies on high impact projects that are making a difference in our community, our world. You're working across, various industries or with technologies and tools, and just the opportunity to touch so many different projects and lives, I think is a big draw. The collaborative culture, I think, Greg was talking a little bit to that just now, but, really coming together as a team to deliver, and rather than it just being an individual, I think we're constantly working together to jump in. People are willing to help out. There's not kind of this definitive line of this is my responsibility, this is yours. I was even talking with a teammate not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and they're far into their career, probably 10 years in, and talking about how they were learning something new from someone that was 2 years out of a boot camp program. So I think the learning opportunities, up and down the ladder, if you will. And that collaborative culture is a big piece of what makes us successful and why those projects are so enjoyable to work on. And the other piece of that is, certainly training, growth, and career advancement. So we have a big focus on investing back in our teammates and in their professional development. And that could include things like, paying for certifications, providing software licensing, sending people to conferences, maybe some internal leadership training that's provided. I think all of those opportunities, in addition to what you are learning and doing professionally within the projects, help provide opportunities for people to grow. And that kind of falls also into, our career path. And so this past year within our digital innovation division, we set up more or less a pretty clear career path for individuals to follow. So it's not so much a checklist of things to go out and accomplish and do and get to the next level, but really trying to set expectations of, hey, this is where you want to be. How do you get there? How are we setting our goals? Making sure we're connecting with leaders to help us to achieve those goals and ultimately get to where you want to be. And so I really think that, coming in and being able to do what you love and have those opportunities is certainly a big draw to a lot of the teammates that are here and what draws people to our team. Of course, the other piece that's been touched on too this evening is our culture. And I think without that, probably everything else falls through the cracks. We spend so much time at work. We want to, love the people and the work that we're doing and who we're doing it for and what we're delivering. And I really want to kind of start this conversation around our core values at Insight of hunger, heart, and harmony. And for us, kind of that hunger is really that drive to learn, to grow, to question, to deliver in the projects that we're doing. The heart we really see in us taking care of each other and our clients and our community, really kind of stepping in, stepping up where needed. And of course, harmony, which is, we view that as bringing together of, the different skill sets, the different perspectives, different backgrounds, all together for this kind of united goal that would help us be more successful. And in particular, I think harmony really speaks to, our focus around diversity and inclusion. So I wanted to spend a good bit of time there on diversity and inclusion for Insight is truly, a critical component of our success. We're committed to embracing diversity, inviting different perspectives, and really, celebrating each other in our uniqueness and how we can really come together kind of for that end solution and more successful solution together. And we've done a lot within the past years, and with all of 2020's challenges that I'm sure everyone has experienced, I think that, I and our teammates are really proud of, what they've accomplished, especially this year. So there are certain, programs that are offered across Insight as Insight initiatives within diversity and inclusion, but then our digital innovation division also has some specific initiatives and events that we do to help kind of continue to bring that message more locally into our division and our teams. So over the past year, we've had a wide, variety of events that have occurred, and they're engaging events, they're educational events. What I think have been really impressive for the events that I've attended is, they're very open conversations. People are very transparent. I mean, it's whatever you're more comfortable sharing. But I think it's been very eye-opening for a lot of teammates to hear different perspectives of what everybody is feeling and experiencing across the country, especially now that we're all virtual. That's made it a lot easier to do. Some of those programs, I just want to highlight to maybe give some examples of the programs and events that we've had. Some of them are educational. So we've done some live workshops on allyship and unconscious bias. And what I loved about those is that they are live workshops, and we ask people to, if they're comfortable, share their stories, share their experiences. It's not just a video that you go in and a checkbox that you click. We had a lot of people participate and attend those workshops. So Education, I think, is a big focus for our diversity and inclusion initiatives. In addition to that, kind of we have maybe some more fun and exciting events. So we do some TED Talk Tuesdays, typically monthly. And the way that those work is they have a topic, they have a TED Talk, a link to a video or maybe a podcast, and you'll go and watch the video, listen to the podcast beforehand, and then come to the meeting and discuss what you thought. So in looking forward, next month is Black History Month. So I think our next topic is on, I'm going to read it here correctly. It takes a community to eradicate hate. So we'll have a TED Talk on that. You'll listen to it beforehand, and then you'll come together, discuss, what you learned, what you heard, how this might impact you. So it's a great way to have kind of those meaningful discussions within, a smaller group setting. We've had watch parties. We did a Secret Love for Pride Month. We've watched On the Basis of Sex. That was the Ruth Bader Ginsburg movie. And typically there are discussion groups after that. There's book clubs. There's blog posts and recipe exchanges. I know one was for Caribbean American Heritage Month. And so got to try some exciting new recipes, traditional recipes. We've had trivia games that might kind of take a more of a fun element of learning about maybe a different culture while having fun with your teammates. So just a lot of different programs and events and workshops to not, of course, have fun and communicate and collaborate, but also really learn and have kind of safe environments to have these conversations. We also, within our digital innovation division, created a diversity and inclusion spotlight program. And that program, our teammates submit nominations for other teammates and what they have done in progressing maybe those D&I initiatives and the great work that they're doing. And I think I had about 34 teammate nominations this past year. 15 individuals received one of those spotlight awards, and one office or a project team that received recognition as well. So great to see, our teammates are excited about these initiatives. They're participating and they're recognizing each other and what they're doing to make us a better work environment, a better place. I'm sure that I'm missing a lot of events and things that we've done within just digital innovation, but hopefully that gives you maybe a little bit of a taste of some of the activities, some of the events, some of the groups that you might experience if you were to work with Insight. From a larger Insight perspective, we also have the teammate resource groups. I know Sarah mentioned this as well. Some of the different resource groups that we have, they're open to all teammates. They can be created and started by teammates. So they're really driven and led by our teammates based on like their passions around those groups. And typically they're started because they support one of those three objectives that you see there on the screen. They support a diverse workforce, promote respectful, inclusive environment, or support our Insight business objectives, or maybe one or more. We have several teammate resource groups. Currently, we're continuing to grow. The Afro Professionals and Allies at Insight, or API, it launched on Juneteenth last year. I think they've had a really successful year. I think there were over 660 people attend their initial kickoff meeting, which was really exciting. So looking forward to a lot of continued work and activities and events and collaboration for all of our teammates resource groups. We have also started a mentorship program, and this is really to help develop our diverse teammates' skills and continue that personal career advancement within Insight. So I think that it was back in the late Q4, we were submitting applications for people that wanted to be mentors, and then more recently gathering applications of people that want to be part of that mentee program. So looking forward to seeing how that potential program continues to grow and impact our current teammates day-to-day and careers within Insight. We also added Global Harmony Day this past year, and it's a day to just really celebrate our unique talents, perspectives, backgrounds, and us all kind of come together through events, activities. We brought in speakers and really just kind of come together to celebrate our differences, our uniqueness, and those different perspectives. So that was an exciting addition to our offerings and events that we have as a larger Insight organization. And I will say, certainly this has been very exciting. Like I said, we're very proud of all the accomplishments that we have, but there's always room for, continued growth, continued improvement. And so I think there's that continued commitment to assess our approach around allyship initiatives, workshops, recruiting, so that we continue to improve within diversity and inclusion each year. So not kind of settle as is, but really continue to make improvements in this space and continue to grow and have even more offerings in the future. That being said, of course, we're pretty proud, I think, to be recognized on Fortune 100's Best Workplaces for Diversity. I think Corporate Equity Index recognized Insight for their LGBTQ inclusive business practices, and we've also been recognized for female board representation. So that's a lot. I know there's probably even more I could share, but I did want to kind of jump into maybe some other aspects of our culture and continue to share on those. And I think the other, big one to mention is around our corporate global citizenship and charitable outreach. So there's a big focus on Insight being a good global citizen, and we do that in a lot of different ways. Our teammates are offered 2 volunteer days a year, so this would be in addition to any other kind of time off programs that you have. And our teammates volunteered approximately 86,000 hours annually, which is pretty amazing. And you can use those days towards things that you're really passionate about and where you want to spend your time volunteering and giving back to the community. Or there are activities that we do maybe as a kind of local digital innovation team initiative or as a larger Insight initiative. So I know that more recently with MLK Day coming up soon, there's been some talk of, and some initiatives around using that instead of a day off, really being a day of action. And even though we're in this virtual world, there are still a lot of ways to virtually volunteer. So that's, a great benefit that we offer to a lot of our teammates around, being able to use their time towards impacting local communities. We've also done a lot of charitable giving. So you'll see the money there that we've raised for United Way, and then also for Noble Cause, which would include foundations like Make-A-Wish or the Boys and Girls Club. And then In It Together Foundation, that is something that's really unique to Insight. It was created by some Insight teammates, and it was built to be able to support teammates in times of crisis. So our teammates will donate to the foundation, and then there's an application process if you are experiencing a time of crisis to be able to apply for funding through that foundation. So it's basically, we're in this together as a mentality, and in good times or in bad, we're in it together. We want to support each other, and it's another way that we're able to support our teammates. Recognize is one of the platforms that we use company-wide to be able to recognize all of the great work that our teammates are doing. I think this is pretty important to be able to share different kudos around the great work and how we come together as a team to enact our values, to be successful in projects. We're not doing this alone. And so I think that's kind of a larger Insight-wide program for us to be able to kind of get that larger global recognition for what we're doing, maybe at what might seem like a small scale within our day-to-day work and lives. And then, of course, we offer a comprehensive benefits package with, a lot of different, benefits and perks. So certainly, we want to make sure that health and wellness of our teammates is of top priority, and that we're providing those benefits to our teammates through our comprehensive benefits package. And so I know after hearing from Sarah and Christina and Greg and the team, you are ready to join our team. And so I wanted to just kind of share a couple of the opportunities that we have in our digital innovation division. These are ones that we often see. And if you're interested, I'm happy to share more information. I will say, this is not, an all-encompassing list. There are a lot of opportunities within digital innovation, or even within the larger Insight, that are not going to be listed here. So if you don't see yourself in one of these roles, that does not mean that there's not a role and a fit for you at Insight. There's a lot of opportunities out there, and we are looking to continue to grow. It's been an exciting kickoff to 2021 in terms of our hiring and the growth of our team. So we're pretty excited about continuing to look for great team members that are a good fit, that align with our values and our culture, and want to, be involved in these exciting projects that we're working on, and continue to grow our team. And I will say, I know these look like stock photos at the bottom, but they are not. They are our actual teammates. They're just very photogenic. And I've also just included a quick slide with my contact information. So if you are interested, you feel free to contact me. We posted a couple of jobs on BIT's job board. And then, of course, our career site will provide kind of a full comprehensive list of openings that we have today. The other, resource I would direct you to is to be sure to connect with us, connect with Insight and the different social media platforms. And that way you'll stay up to date with not only what we're doing professionally, but different opportunities that might pop up.
Excellent. Thank you, Elise. Definitely appreciate that. We do have a number of questions in our Q&A section. So there's a couple that I wanted to address first, and then I'll throw out some questions to you all. Ronald, this question has already been answered by Sarah, but I wanted to add some more information to this question. Black and Brown make up such a small group in this field. How do you find a mentor advocate to help support your break-in and growth along this journey? So I want to say join Blackstone Technology. Go to foundation.blackstontechnology.net. Go to the join button. We have a lot of great resources. There's a mentorship program that is being formulated right now in collaboration with Microsoft. So there are some great resources, some training opportunities there. Join our Slack group. So if you go to blackstontechnology.net, there's an icon towards the bottom for, as a matter of fact, I'll just post it in the chat. So our Slack group is humongous. We have probably, let me look. I want to say like 5,200 people in our Slack group. I'm going to check on that and make sure. 5,100 people in our Slack group. So there's a Blackstone Technology Slack group. A lot of engagement and conversations and things like that go on in this Slack group. And I mention that because we have a number of channels that are broken out within that Slack group, anything from data science to DevOps to project management to music. So there's a lot of technical topics as well as, just other topics of interest there as well. So I'm going to pop that into the chat. Oops, that's the wrong. Let me grab this link. And so there's a short form for you to fill out since Slack is invite only. Fill out that form, you get an automatic invite, and you'll get a URL to join the chat. And there is so now I'll go down the list of these questions here. So first question is from Ronald Simon again. It's, hi, I'm working on a career change. I'm currently a retail senior director, and I'm very interested in transitioning into data science leadership, translating data into impactful actions, decisions. Is there a realistic transition, or would you need to start at the analyst level? So maybe Christina? Or?
Yeah, I can start. I mean, I don't want to put Greg Steinmetz on the spot either, but I think, this might be a good one for him to jump in on too, if he's willing. But I was typing on this one, and I actually didn't do it because I wanted to give Greg an opportunity to also talk about it. But nice. From my perspective, you definitely don't need to have that deep of an experience to, start from the beginning and work your way up. It does help to understand the technology, especially, if you're directly leading data scientists or data practitioners. But some of the best leaders that I've had have not had that background. And especially at the executive level, I don't think it's imperative for you to have worked your way up from the ground. It might be easier to get interviews if you have, but I don't think it's definitely required. But again, Greg, if you're willing to chime in on that, I think that your insight could be helpful there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And by the way, just to quickly intro myself, I'm the National Practice Director for Data and AI with Insight. So yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with Christina here. And honestly, there's probably a couple avenues you could jump into in that space as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the pure statistics side. It could also be on some of the data engineering side of things, where you're working with the data and shaping the data to prepare it for statistical modeling. So yeah, I don't necessarily think you have to be come in and be able to hit the ground running. I think there's opportunities for folks to quickly ramp up.
Excellent. Next question is, what websites, please, and how can we access benefits? Do we have chance for job placement? This was anonymous. So I mentioned the website, foundation.blackstonetechnology.net. There is, once you join, there is a members, I don't know if it's members only. Is it members only, Dennis?
Just
Is that what it's?
section.
Okay, member section, and there you'll find resources available to our members. As far as job placement, we don't necessarily do job placement. We do have a jobs board, blackstonetechnology.net. I'll pop that in here for jobs board. I don't know if there's any additional resources for job placement. Dennis, do you?
Well, we're currently working with a couple of organizations. Mindlance is one, K-Force is another. They're more recruitment firms, but depending on the types of job and what you're looking to do, you could enter into one of the programs, either an apprenticeship program or a jobs training program. But there are definitely a number of resources on the foundation website that you can look into. And we always are updating things on a weekly basis. So if you don't see something there now that is applicable to you, check back regularly. There's definitely updates.
Excellent. Next question is, do you hire cloud engineers? I think Elise touched on that. Elise, you want to answer that?
Yes, absolutely. We hire cloud engineers, both on the infrastructure side and people that have come from more of a development background. I know, Greg, you're in that space. So absolutely, we love to consider other cloud engineers.
And just so you know, so I came from an AWS background, and then when I got to Insight, my focus was more on Azure, but there are opportunities as our practice is moving more into AWS and GCP. So if you have those skill sets, then you're most definitely welcome to apply. Let me see. This is from Marlena Love. This has been very insightful and insight. Are there incentives or opportunities for current colleagues to work on side fun projects, models to grow their skills in this area?
I can take a first shot at that. That is something that we've been talking about a lot, are ways that we can help to make those opportunities available internally. There is so much excitement around data in general and data science specifically. And so we are talking a lot right now about how can we best facilitate and enable people to take part in something, some type of mentorship programs or just different opportunities to shadow or get some experience so that they could just even see if they really want to do it. It's exciting to talk about, but sometimes you might try it out and not like it. So we are working through how we would best do that. So I would say, stay tuned on that front. But anybody that's interested in anything, going back to how collaborative we are, can always come and say, hey, I want to learn more about, mobile application development. I could go to any of our mobile app developers and say that, and they would help me. It doesn't even have to be a formal program. It really is a truly collaborative environment where people know that learning is important and want to share their expertise.
Excellent. There was an earlier question from Dr. Sherilyn Phillips. She has a hyphenated name and it's cut off. Oh, Hall. Okay. She says, I have a lot of experience with tech clients, specifically from the customer end in terms of delivery and helping clients see value added investments from their technology and digital transformation investment. I would love to understand how Insight addresses customization from a standpoint of building interoperability. I hate that word officially. Is there anyone who can speak to that?
Yeah, hey, Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing I'd say there, well, real quick before I jump on that, cloud engineers. Yeah, bring all your cloud engineers all day. And I think on that last question, though, I'd probably want a little more context. I mean, I get the term interoperability, but I'm not sure the overall context of the question.
Are you still on the line? Let me see. Yes, she is. Can you unmute her? Would you like to?
Yeah, if you raise your hand, I'll unmute you.
I don't know if she's gonna. Dr. Sherilyn Phillips Hall.
Oh, wait a second. There we go.
Here she is. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. There we go.
You're alive.
Yeah, like I worked with a lot of clients in the Caribbean. They have multiple systems. They may have Azure, they may have Oracle, they may have multiple platforms that need customization for various reasons. And as a developer, you need to, one of the things that if they are looking at digital transformation, there's a concern about their current systems, especially if they're finance-based. They like to know how they can get the best bang for their buck. Whatever systems that are being developed, their platforms, they're able to align with each other. And so the question of interoperability is a big factor for them. So I listened with keen interest in terms of insights. So my question from that context deals with how do you address a client with multiple systems and multiple platforms that may be seeking one of the solutions offered was churn. Being able to develop predictive models to determine churn. Let's say that person had wanted to look at churn and had a financial component, let's say Peachtree. How do you build that into your customization model? Because they may be looking for you to develop a specific system that will provide both insights and also address those business problems or business needs. So that is why I asked that question. Am I clearer?
I think so. And I think that's probably a fairly, I don't want to put it off, but I think that's a fairly loaded question that I would probably want to pull in other folks. You know, maybe.
Okay, so like I worked with Tableau, for example.
Yep.
And Tableau is a fairly interoperable solution that pulls different platforms, is able to interconnect with various systems. I'm just using my expertise in there. So the client says, okay, I have multiple systems. I have inventory control system. I have a CRM system. I have a financial system. I have things to be doing, some legacy platforms that are consistent to whatever. Let's say they work with the water company. So my thing is, really is from a network perspective, because we are talking about how, so I'm looking at insights. How have you all addressed questions from clients or requests from clients specifically when they're asking you to develop solutions that you have to look at interoperability as a factor? Am I clearer?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, Christina, jump in here if I'm heading down a different path than what you might be thinking about. But I mean, in general, I mean, we deal with clients all the time that have those types of situations where they need to be able, they might have multiple ERP systems or multiple, you name it, multiple financial systems that they need to be able to kind of provide insights across that spectrum, right? And in all of those cases, we're generally going to build them some sort of modern data platform so that they can integrate all that data into one space or one platform that they can go to with Tableau or with Power BI or with an analytics tool or whatever it might be to provide those insights out to the broader community. That's not a trivial effort for sure. We usually approach those kind of in a priority-based perspective. But that's generally, I think, how you're going to solve those problems. And it's like I said, it's not a trivial endeavor at all.
No, it's not. And I know that was, I just heard you all addressed a number of situations that is particularly one level, but when you're different, when you're dealing with multi-tier issues, then it involves, and where specifically, if you're looking at, I heard someone mention they were looking at recipes from the Caribbean. So I come from the Caribbean. And most of the industries and most of the clients there, they have multiple vendors, and even in rural areas of the US and different parts of the world, they have multiple systems that are being sold on different platforms. And one of the concerns raised is, how do you deal with being able to get different solutions, different software packages to talk to each other?
Yeah.
So I'm just raising it there, and I'm just was interested to know how, from a project perspective, do you address a client like that? Because that's more the norm now than the exception. You know, people are not simplistic, and interoperability and alignment and being able to integrate with various solutions. As you said, from Insight, you have Power BI, you have IBM, you have various solutions out there.
Yep.
And one of the things are people like the ability of not having to buy more stuff, but be able to leverage on what they have existing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great question, and something surely we could explore offline. I think that's a longer conversation than we have here.
I'm sorry if I threw a wrench there.
No, no, you're fine.
I'm sorry.
No,
My apologies.
that's a great question, and those are not those are challenging situations for sure.
And with that, Greg, there was a question in here about putting contact information in the chat. So for those that feel comfortable, if you want to throw your contact information, that came from Khalif Oliver. So, and can you send the link information to email? So Elise, she flagged that as something that she want to answer. So you want to go ahead and answer that, Elise?
Oh, I think I was going to try to type it
Okay.
in. But...
Oh, okay. I was wondering what information you were seeking, Dr. Cheryl. Is she still able to? Oh, I guess not. If you can type in like what information you're referring to, we can answer that there. Let's see. So Dennis got that. Let's see. Okay. So I think there is a question, and multiple people can answer this. What would you recommend to do to stand out? And I'll start off by saying be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Like, so I say that because before I started at Insight, like I wasn't the type to just come out and say, hey, I want to do a presentation, especially if I was new with the technology. I would feel like like I was inadequate to speak on a specific technology. But since joining Insight and being around such great teammates and colleagues, I've grown my confidence a lot in being able to speak. So since I've joined Insight, I've actually spoke at probably 3 or 4 different conferences. I've given talks within Insight as well. And although, you know, I sometimes don't feel that my knowledge is all the way there in a particular or specific topic, my teammates champion me and they give me the confidence to speak. So I would say the first thing is to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because speaking publicly is not the most comfortable thing for anyone to do. And a lot of times you feel like no matter how well someone may perceive you, as far as speaking, you may, you know, you're your own worst critic, and so you might think that you did a terrible job. But that's okay, because a lot of people, most of the time, they don't even notice when you mess up or slip up or anything like that. And so I would say just be comfortable with being uncomfortable. If anyone else wants to chime in,
I'll chime in.
yeah.
Well, first of all, I'll go ahead and say you're welcome, Greg. No, I'm just kidding.
You're-
um, so I would say, I would make a suggestion to find your niche and go all in. You should be reading about whatever your niche is, talking with other people about it, just totally completely immerse yourself in it and let it become your specialty. And then, you know, this one might be a little controversial. It's how I live my life. It might not work for everybody, but I personally don't ask for permission. I ask for forgiveness. So I go above and beyond. Sometimes I might overreach and I'll apologize for it, but I'll never ask for permission to do it. So that's how I like to believe that I set myself apart.
Awesome. I think those are both great answers. I'm not sure I have anything super to add to that, but just, you know, along the lines with finding your niche and being, you know, not being afraid. It's just, you know, be passionate, you know, show your passion, show your enthusiasm. I think that that really goes such a long way. Even if you're still learning in the space, if you show that you have a real passion about it and a desire to learn, it really does show through. And I think that that really does help people to stand out.
Yeah, Christina, you stole my thunder there, but when I'm hiring people, I'm always looking for folks with passion. I know if you've got a passion, for instance, in the data and AI space, I know you're going to do everything within your capabilities to learn the technology, to put the time in needed to get the job done, whatever it might be. I mean, that's passion is something I think we're all here really looking for. You want to find your niche, but your niche needs to be a passion. And that's my take on it.
I was muted, sorry. So that looks like that's all the questions. If there's any other questions, raise your hand if you want to ask them. If not, I think we're going to go ahead and conclude this event. I definitely want to thank all my colleagues. All right, so there is a question. Can you unmute that person, Dennis? I'm not going to. Okay, there you go. You're unmuted. Did you want to ask a question? I want to try to pronounce this, but I don't want to mess it up. Nagano? Okay. No, we can't. Okay, so he is trying to speak.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear
There
me
you
now?
go. Yes, we can. Excellent.
My question was regarding when you hiring someone and you want to see passion. My question is, do you see passion in, because I'm an electrical engineer and I want a bit to change paths. I'm in voice over IP. I want to move into a bit more data science, and I was curious if actually, so I have my own pet projects, but my question was, would you see passion more in the time or in someone who invests in education, meaning certifications or masters? I'm not sure yet, or more into projects that the person has done.
That's a great question, and I'd like for Greg to answer too. But from my perspective, I think it could be really any of those, anything it's showing that you're invested. But I think also, it comes through in, if you're on LinkedIn, what you're talking about, what shows through when we talk to you, do you get excited about what you're talking about? Those things, they really just show that it's meaningful to you and it matters and you're investing some of yourself. So it could be any of those things that you suggested, right? And make sure that you're showcasing yourself and those things that you have. Don't hide them. Don't just do them in a corner, advertise what you're doing and share it with the world. So I think that's my answer on that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, to me, the folks that I see passion on fit in both those spots, right? But I think you also see it with what folks do in their off time, right? I've run into people in the past that just love playing with data and they're monkeying around with their fitness data from their watch and building reports and doing analytics on it. Those are the folks, and I'm not saying everybody has to be like this, but those are the folks, have a true passion for their particular craft.
Okay, thanks for the answer.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else wants to jump in and ask a question before we jump out of here? Okay. With that, we will wrap this up. I want to thank all my Insight colleagues, Sarah Perry, Christina Hines, Elise Holmes, Greg Steinmetz. And I definitely want to say kudos to Greg for reaching out, agreeing to help coordinate, everyone help coordinate all the people that I mentioned. But Greg initially reached out. We've been in constant conversation, I want to say maybe since the spring or something like that. So thank you for collaborating with me and getting this event done. And thanks to everyone else. Thanks to all the attendees who showed up on this Wednesday night, Wednesday evening to join us. And great presentations. Great hearing more about Insight. And hopefully you all will send your resumes in to Elise or check out the BITS job board and apply for, I think there's 5 positions out there that were posted. And with that, I will conclude and say thank you all. Thanks, Dennis, for facilitating. I appreciate that. And if anyone has any questions, I threw my LinkedIn in there, my email address. So reach out anytime. Very accessible. This is great. I appreciate it, and have a great evening. Oh, real quick, sorry. There is a raffle.
Yeah.
Totally forgot about that. Whew. So there is a raffle for those that attended this actual event. So there was a registration, but you actually had to attend this event in order to be eligible for the raffle. Elise is we're going to send over the list over to Elise, and she's going to do the raffle. And then after this event is over, she'll be reaching out to the winner. So.
And Greg,
Yeah.
just so you know, if anybody was keeping score, at 6:20 Eastern Standard Time, there were 54 attendees. So I hit it right on the nose, but
Nice.
I meant to say something. I meant to call you the Nostradamus of BIT. Because when I seen, I was like, man, that guy.
So I'm going to
hit him up for the lottery numbers.
Yeah, I'll get the attendee list to Christine as soon as this is over. And
excellent.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to myself or Greg. Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Have a great evening.